Now we talk about the important characteristics of phylum Mollusca, which are likely to appear in the EAMCET, AAPMT and all the other exams now. Now the term Mollusca was coined by Aristotle. The term Mollusca was coined by Aristotle. It was later on confirmed by Lancaster, and it was put into practice, that is, it was used by Johnston. The study of molluscans is called malacology, and study of their shells is called conchology. Study of their shells is called conchology, and study of snails is called nudology. Study of their snails is called nudology. Now, Mollusca is the second largest invertebrate phylum. The largest is Arthropoda and the second largest is Mollusca. Molluscans are freshwater, marine water, and some of them are even terrestrial. In Mollusca, most of them are free living except a few which are parasitic. The parasitic molluscans are Entoconcha, Thionicola, Thaika, and Stylifer. Entoconcha, Thionicola, Thaika, and Stylifer, and there is another animal called Entovalva. So Entovalva, Entoconcha, Thionicola, Thaika, and Stylifer are the parasitic molluscans. Except these 5 of them, the rest of the molluscans are free living. Now the molluscans all are unsegmented, bilaterally symmetrical, cephalized, schizocoelomates. Bilateral symmetrical, schizocoelomates, unsegmented, cephalized molluscans. The only molluscan group which is asymmetrical, the asymmetrical group of mollusca is Gastropoda. That includes mostly preferably snails, which are asymmetrical due to torsion. The only group of mollusca which is segmented, the segmented group of mollusca is Monoplacophora. Monoplacophora is the only group of mollusca which is internally segmented. Except this, rest of them are unsegmented. Then asymmetrical group of molluscans are gastropods because of torsion. Now in mollusca, the body is divisible into, the parts of the body are mantle, shell, foot, and visceral mass. Mantle, shell, foot, and visceral mass are the main components of the body. Visceral mass is also called pallial complex. Visceral mass is also called pallial complex or visceral complex. The visceral mass is covered by a thin glandular layer called mantle. The mantle helps in respiration. Besides that, it also gives rise to shell. The glands present in the mantle give rise to shell. Now the shell in mollusca, it contains, the outer part of the shell is called periostracum. The outer part of it is consists of 3 layers. Outer part of the shell is called periostracum. The periostracum looks like this now. It is made up of an organic substance called conchiolin. made up of an organic substance called conchiolin. Then the middle layer of shell is called prismatic layer. Prismatic layer or ostracum. This prismatic layer or ostracum is made up of both CaCO3 and conchiolin. This is the CaCO3 deposition, and in between there is conchiolin deposition. So it is made up of both CaCO3 and conchiolin. Then the innermost layer of the shell is called hypoostracum or nacreous layer or mother of pearl. It's called hypoostracum or nacreous layer or mother of pearl. Now this is mostly made up of a layer of conchiolin and CaCO3. CaCO3 and conchiolin layers are alternately arranged. The pearl, which is secreted by oysters, mostly contains this innermost layer. It doesn't contain the middle and outer layers. That's why it is referred to as mother of pearl. And the entire shell is secreted by the glands present in the mantle. Now the shell in mollusca, it is absent in Aplacophora and octopus, vaginulus, which is a slug. So it is absent in Aplacophora, octopus, vaginulus, which is commonly called a slug, it belongs to gastropoda, and doris, which is commonly called sea lemon. So in all of them, shell is absent. Aplacophora, octopus, vaginulus and doris, shell is absent here now. Shell is internal in sepia, loligo and aplysia. Sepia, which is commonly called cuttlefish, it has got internal shell. The internal shell of sepia is called cuttlebone or gladius. The internal shell of loligo is called sea pen. Loligo is commonly called sea squid and its internal shell is called sea pen. Even aplysia is commonly called sea hare. Even that has internal shell, but that has no specific name here now. So internal shell is present in sepia, loligo and aplysia. External multi-chambered shell is present in nautilus. The shell is a modification of arms. Shell is a modification of arms in a cephalopod called Argonata. In Areophanta is a gastropod. In Areophanta, the shell is without operculum. Shell is without operculum. Then the shell of Cypria is a gastropod commonly called cowrie. The shell of Cypria was used as a medium of currency during Aurangzeb's dynasty. The shell of Cypria, which is commonly called cowrie, was used as medium of currency during Aurangzeb's dynasty. And the Cypria shell is also used to play a game. Okay, it is also called conch here now. The shell is called conch. So these conches are used to play a particular game here now. Now the blood vascular system is open in most of the molluscans here now, with a chambered heart. With a chambered heart. The heart is neurogenic. Heart is neurogenic. The only group of mollusca with closed blood vascular system is cephalopoda. Cephalopoda is the only group of mollusca with a closed blood vascular system here now. The respiratory pigment in some of the molluscans is hemocyanin. Like for instance, cephalopoda, it is hemocyanin. Even in gastropoda, certain gastropods, it is hemocyanin. So hemocyanin is the respiratory pigment with copper as a metallic group. Arca and solen, these arca and solen, they belong to Pelecypoda. In these two molluscans, the respiratory pigment is hemoglobin. Only those two molluscans, the respiratory pigment is hemoglobin here now. Now, the respiration in mollusca takes place by gills called ctenidia. Respiration in mollusca takes place by gills called ctenidia. They may be monopectinate or bipectinate. The only molluscan group which has got both gills and lung is the gastropoda. That's why they are referred to as amphibious molluscans. Excretion in mollusca takes place by metanephridia or kidneys, and most of them are ammonotelic. Snails are, some of them are ureotelic, and sometimes they eliminate uric acid here now. And reproduction here now, most of them are unisexual, a few are bisexual here now. Fertilization may be internal or external. And in molluscans, foot, which is ventrally placed, helps in locomotion here now. Foot helps in anchorage and locomotion. Now the entire mollusca is divided into 7 classes here now. Class A Placophora, class Polyplacophora, class Monoplacophora, class Gastropoda, class Scaphopoda, class Pelecypoda, and class Cephalopoda. To start with, class A Placophora. A placophores are also called solenogasters. They are also called solenogasters. They are marine worm-like molluscans. Marine cylindrical worm-like molluscans. In A placophora, head, eyes, tentacles, osphradium, shell and foot are absent. All of them are absent here now. Then on the body, certain cuticular spines are present. Cuticular spicules or spines are present on the body. They represent the reduced shell. Then there is a pedal groove ventrally present. That pedal groove represents the foot, reduced foot here now. Respiration takes place by gills or secondary gills here now. They have got ladder type of nervous system. Ladder type of nervous system is present. Examples are neomania and ketoderma. Neomania and ketoderma are the examples for A placophora, which are also called solenogasters. Then you have class Polyplacophora. Polyplacophorans are also exclusively marine. Body is dorsoventrally compressed. On the dorsal side, 8 shell plates are present. The shell consists of 8 valves. They are all dorsally situated here now. Foot is ventrally placed with a flat creeping sole. Foot is ventrally placed with a flat creeping sole. ventrally placed with a flat creeping sole. 6 to 88 pairs of gills are present in the mantle groove. 6 to 88 pairs gills are embedded in the mantle groove here now. Now in Polyplacophora, head is indistinct. Head is indistinct. And some of them have a larva called trochophore. Larva called trochophore. Some of them have a larva called trochophore here now. Even in Polyplacophora, the nervous system is ladder-like. Ladder type of nervous system is present, but it is without ganglions. Without ganglions. Polyplacophorans are also called loricates. They are also called loricates. Then example for Polyplacophora are chiton, which is commonly called sea mouse or sea mica or coat of male shells. Coat of male shells. Chiton, and another example, Lepidopleurus. So chiton and Lepidopleurus are the examples for Polyplacophora. Next you have class Monoplacophora. The Monoplacophorans are also marine here now, and they were supposed to be extinct here now. All the scientists were under the impression that all the Monoplacophorans had become extinct. But in the year 1952, Rica Costa of Pacific Ocean, once again they were discovered. Hence they are referred to as living fossils of phylum Mollusca. The best example for this group is Neopelina galethae, because it was discovered during Galathe expedition. Another example is Neopelina evengi. That's why it is referred to as the living fossil of phylum Mollusca. And it is the only group of Mollusca with internal segmentation. With internal segmentation. And it is a connecting link between Annelida and Mollusca. Annelida and Mollusca. Internal segmentation, nephridia and gills are the annelid characters. Presence of shell, mantle, foot are the molluscan characters. They have got 5 to 6 pairs of gills and 6 pairs of nephridia. 5 to 6 pairs of gills and 6 pairs of nephridia. Heart has 2 pairs of auricles and 1 pair of ventricles. Heart is unique with 2 pairs of auricles and a pair of ventricles. And the examples, as I made a mention earlier, Neopelina evengi and Neopelina galethae are the important examples of this class Monoplacophora. Next you have class Scaphopoda. The scaphopods are commonly called tusk shells. Foot is board shaped and trilobed. Foot is board shaped and trilobed and helps in digging. Helps in digging. Shell is tusk-like, open at both the ends. Open at both the ends. Heart, gills, head, eyes are absent. Heart, gills, eyes, head are absent. Respiration is through mantle. Then on either side of the foot, tentacle-like structures called captacula are present. On either side of the foot, thread-like structures called captacula are present. They help in food capture. They help in food capture. The examples are dentalium and siphanodentalium. Siphanodentalium. And some of them have larvae called trochophore. Some of the scaphopods have got a larva called trochophore. Now the gastropoda is the largest class of phylum Mollusca. They are commonly called belly-footed molluscans. It includes snails, slugs and limpets. Snails, slugs and limpets. Gastropods are also called univalves because they have a single shell which is spirally twisted here now. The first formed part of the shell is called apex. The first formed part of the shell is called apex. The shell has got about 6 to 6.5 whorls now. The largest whorl is called body whorl. Body whorl. And all the other whorls are collectively called spire. All the other whorls are collectively called spire. Now the shell bears growth lines. On the shell, growth lines and varices are present. Varices are the thick lines which indicate the inactive phase of life cycle of snails. Snails undergo aestivation. So during aestivation they do not grow. So those varices are formed while the snail undergoes aestivation, representing the inactive phase of life cycle of the snails. Now the snails, as I made a mention earlier, they have got both monopectinate gills and a lung called pulmonary sac. Both of them are separated from each other by a ridge-like structure called epitenia. And they have got a leaf-like structure called osphradium, which acts as a photoreceptor and tests the purity of water. Acts as chemoreceptor, tests the purity of water. Gastropods are asymmetrical due to torsion. And the foot in gastropoda helps in creeping. Gastropoda head is distinct with 2 pairs of tentacles. And all gastropods have radula, which is also called lingual ribbon that helps in mastication. They've got radula or lingual ribbon that helps in mastication. The radula lies on odontophore, which is called lingual mass or tongue mass. On that, the radula is present. Radula is also called lingual ribbon. It helps in mastication. Most of the gastropods are unisexual. A few of them are bisexual, like Areophanta is a snail which is bisexual. Then they have got a larvae. The gastropods have 2 kinds of larvae. Some of them have got veliger and some have trochophore. The important examples for gastropoda are Phyla, which is called freshwater apple snail or pond snail. Next, Limax, commonly called grey slug. Next is Helix, commonly called garden snail. Next is Patella, commonly called limpet. Next is Doris, commonly called sea lemon. And this Doris is without shell. I've already mentioned already. Doris is without shell. Next is Berthellinia is the gastropod with 2 shells. And all other gastropods have a single shell. That's why we call them univalves. The next is Cypria, commonly called cowrie or conch. The next is Aplysia, commonly called sea hare. It is a gastropod with internal shell. Next you have Aerophanta, which has no specific name, but in Aerophanta the shell is without operculum. So these are some of the important examples of class Gastropoda. Pelecypods are commonly called bivalves or lamellibranchiates. Bivalves or lamellibranchiates. The shell has got 2 valves, that's why we call them bivalves. The gills are bipectinate and leaf-like, that's why we call them lamellibranchiates. They are marine or freshwater, and some of them are terrestrial. In Pelecypoda, foot is hatchet-shaped. Hatchet or axe-shaped foot is present. That's why they are called Pelecypods. Pelecy also hatchet. Head, eyes, tentacles, radula are absent. Pelecypoda is the only group of mollusca in which radula is replaced by crystalline style that helps in carbohydrate digestion by secreting amylase. Then in Pelecypoda, byssus gland and byssus thread, that is, foot is modified into byssus gland and byssus thread that helps in anchorage. Pelecypoda includes oysters, then mussels and oysters and scallops. Mussels, oysters and scallops. Heart has 2 auricles and a single ventricle, and they've got larvae. That freshwater pelecypods have larvae called glochidium, and marine gastropods have larvae called trochophore. Freshwater pelecypods, like for instance you take Unio, which is commonly called freshwater mussel, life cycle involves an ectoparasitic larva called glochidium. And marine animals, trochophore and some of them veligia, are present. In pelecypods, excretion takes place by certain kidneys, which are known as organ of Bojanus and Kieber's organ. Excretion takes place by the kidneys called organ of Bojanus and Kieber's organ. The first formed part of the shell is called umbo. And shell, just like gastropods, even Pelecypoda, shell bears growth lines and varices. The examples for Pelecypoda are Unio, freshwater mussel, Mytilus, sea mussel, Pinctada vulgaris. This Pinctada vulgaris is commonly called Indian pearl oyster. Indian pearl oyster. Indian pearl oyster. Then other examples now, Arca and Solen, both of them belong to Pelecypoda. And there is another example, Cymbium, commonly called begging bowl. Even this belongs to Pelecypoda. Cymbium, commonly called begging bowl, belongs to Pelecypoda. The next one is class Cephalopoda, which is also called Siphonopoda. Cephalopoda is the most evolved group of mollusca. All of them are exclusively marine. Cephalopoda includes devilfish, cuttlefish and squids. devilfish, cuttlefish and squids. In cephalopoda, foot is modified into oral arms and siphon. Oral arms, maybe 8 are there or 10 are oral arms are present, and siphon. Siphon helps in locomotion by siphoning water. That's why it is also called cephalopoda. Head is distinct in them with distinct eyes. Eyes of cephalopoda are said to be similar to that of vertebrates. Cephalopoda is the only group of mollusca with closed blood vascular system. Respiratory pigment is hemocyanin. Heart has either one pair of auricles or two pairs of auricles. Respiration in cephalopoda takes place by ctenidia. Some of the cephalopods have ink gland as an organ of offense and defense. And cephalopods all are unisexual, fertilization is external. In some of the cuttlefish and devilfish, one of the arms is called hectocartilized arm. Hectocartilized arm that helps in internal fertilization. Fertilization is internal in them. Hectocartilized arm, that is one of the arms is called hectocartilized arm. It acts as an intromittent organ to ensure internal fertilization. Fertilization is internal and life cycle is direct without any larva. Shell is absent in octopus, and in sepia and loligo shell is internal, and in nautilus shell is external. It is divided into two groups now. Dibranchiata. In all dibranchiates, one pair of gills, one pair of nephridia and one pair of auricles are present. The examples for dibranchiata are sepia, commonly called cuttlefish, loligo, commonly called sea squid, octopus, commonly called devilfish, archichuthis, commonly called giant squid, archichuthis is commonly called giant squid, and it is the largest invertebrate and second largest vertebrate you can refer to as second largest animal among vertebrates. The largest animal is blue whale here now, and archichuthis can be referred to as second largest animal here now, which is commonly called giant squid. Among invertebrates, it is the largest animal here now. Okay, so sepia, loligo, octopus, archichuthis, all of them belong to dibranchiata, where they have got one pair of gills, one pair of auricles and one pair of nephridia. And some of these cephalopods belong to tetrabranchiata, where they have got two pairs of gills, two pairs of nephridia and two pairs of auricles. Example for tetrabranchiata is nautilus. Nautilus with external multi-chambered shell here now, which is commonly called paper nautilus or pearly nautilus here now. Argonata. Argonata also belongs to tetrabranchiata. It is also called pearly nautilus. So like this, the cephalopoda exhibits all unique characteristics, and it is the most evolved group of phylum Mollusca.